Yo, what's up guys, welcome to another video of mine. We're doing a replay analysis on the G2 vs Faze semi-finals of the full Regional 1 tournament in North America. Obviously Faze went on to the win tournament, so we're trying to look and see what made them so good. And I think this match versus G2, they're playing the best North American team coming into this, and they absolutely steamrolled them. Before I get into the video, I'm just going to say that this mic is awful. I know. I've had to switch streaming rooms at the facility because the people at the facility here were using the stream room for interviews today, and they messed up all the mic settings. So I recorded a really good video where I played some games against Forky, and it was like a great video. It was quite funny, it was good, and it didn't pick up any audio, so I'm very sad. So I've come in here, I'm recording this video, which I was going to do anyway, but this will have to do for today's video, and it's going to be a bad mic obviously. But let's get into this one. We're looking at 3 games here. Spoilers, the series ended 4-1 to Faze, and we're going to be looking at, this is the first game of the entire series, we're going to be looking at the G2 win, which was game 4 when they were 3-0 down, and then we're going to be looking at the final win to secure the series from Faze. And we're going to be looking at different POVs. So we're going to do the first game from Mist's POV, second game from Typical, and the final game is going to be from First Killer because he puts up a really good performance. So obviously Mist has come into this roster and he's kind of changed things up. Obviously the old Faze, we all know them to be a very consistent team. Despite what I do see some comments saying they're inconsistent, which I don't see how they were, considering they got top 4 in pretty much every event they played. They're a consistent, top 4 team, whether that was online or on LAN. In my opinion, they were the clear second best team in North America behind G2. And Mist comes in place of AJ. And we know that it's going to be a less mechanical roster, but probably a roster that First Killer wants more. I think First Killer wants quite a defensive team to play around him, and he seems to have got that with Typical and Mist now. And it is working perfectly. Faze have played 2 tournaments. They played a pre-season North American tournament with quite a lot of top teams. This was when I wasn't in the region yet, so I couldn't play that one. And Faze beat Optic in the finals of that one. And then they've obviously won the first regional. So Faze are looking like the best team in North America. And Mist is kind of playing just a very defensive role. And it's actually allowing Typical to push up a bit more, I feel like. On Faze last season with AJ, I think AJ was getting a little bit, put in the shadow because he couldn't really do, his job. Because he can be the main, or he should be the main star of the team. Whereas First Killer was clearly the main star of the team. And First Killer should be. He's far better than anyone in the world at doing that. It's just that AJ should be doing that role as well. And he can finally probably do that on his new team. So best luck to him there. And that's a great shot from First Killer. But we see Mist just kind of slotted in defense. He's holding, the line down. And he's kind of just letting nothing pass. Because people know this guy is, possibly the best defender in the world. He's definitely in the top 5 for me. I would have to put him as top 5. This is a great play from G2. There's not much Mist can do there in that position. You've got one guy going for a shot and he fakes it last second for his teammate that has more momentum and a better angle on target. So, can't really do too much. But you'll see Mist, he's definitely the last man, but he's more of a mechanical last man than a lot of other, pro players for teams that are typically third men. He can take over a lobby, not as much as his teammate First Killer, who's just scored a flip set. But yeah, he can do that. It's not really his role on this team. I see him going for quite a lot of 50s and air dribbles out of defense are the 2 main things I kind of point out. But in this game, not having to do too much. If we check the scoreboard real quick, he's probably at the bottom. Yeah, 24 points as I predicted with 2 minutes left, which isn't common for Mist actually. He on all of his other teams, he usually puts up amazing stats, and I was like, oh, it would be interesting to see his stats on Faze because there's no way he's going to be putting up great stats, and I think he put up like a consistent 1.3 for the entire first stage of the tournament, which is very good for those that don't know that. That's well above average. But yeah, not this game. He's chilling on 24 points still, but he's doing his job. Look, he's going for another 50. He's just staying on a decent amount of boost, pushing up when he needs to. And you'll see this. He's just pushing up to hold the midfield line. He's not doing too much. He's not being too aggressive. He's covering Atomic's hit. He's letting First Killer do his thing. He goes behind First Killer as soon as there's a chance that he could get beat. And bang, hard clear straight into the other team's half, just keeping that pressure on, and that allows First Killer to turn. And that's kind of not all of it. But from a first glance, from what I've seen, I've not seen Faze loads, but I've played them quite a few times. I've seen some of their gameplay. From a first glance, that is basically what they do. That's Mist's job anyway. He does just boom the ball back in a lot, and he's very, very good at that. And it allows First Killer to keep on turning, and basically be the best offensive player in the world, like we know he pretty much is, or at least top 3. Mist looking for some demos there. Getting aggressive, and again he's just pushing up, playing his teammates beat. He's just going behind his teammate here. Sypical lets him get beat. Sypical lets himself get beat rather. All Sypical is doing here is just to force JNaps off the ball, and he makes him flick. And then Mist comes in, puts it really high, which is awkward for Atomic. Atomic's done well to get it out to Chicago. And First Killer actually does miss that ball. So perhaps Mist could have had a better touch there to make it more awkward for Atomic. But I think he did his job again. And look at that. Like, he pushes up to midfield perfectly. He just holds the line. And he's very quick. A lot of third men, they're usually, well, not usually. On top teams, they're a lot of the time, they're, the fastest player. Like, for example, Moist on Vatira, I think, was their fastest player. He was typically the third man for that team. He was furthest back most of the time. But Mist is very, very quick. And that's good to have in a third man. Of course, Mist, he can do it all. He pushes up to first, second. He can do it all over the pitch. But typically, he's last man. And it's good to have, speed in a third man. He cuts off the pass as well. And yeah. And this is I'm glad I chose this game for Mist, because that play on the ball there was probably one of the only times we've seen Mist not be behind both his teammates this game. And here again. And it's 4-1, 0 seconds left. Obviously, no comeback can happen, and that's game. So Mist doing his job, not having to put up too much of a, of a good performance there on the start line there. Mist 98 points, 1 shot to his name, and that's all he has to do. And that's Phase 4-1 win, and that's his job. And that's not a typical game. Usually you'll, average a lot more score and a lot more stats, but that's just, I think, if we watched that game, yeah, we could see he's not touching the ball too much, but he's doing his job. And that really shows that, the score in that game really doesn't matter for him there. 98 points, who cares? He did his job. Let's go on to game 2. Alright, so game 2, going to be going to Sypical's point of view here. So when I say game 2, I just mean the second game of the video. This is actually game 4 of the series. The scoreline in this game is currently 3-0 to Faze. The last game I showed you of the video was the first game of the series. They obviously won that, and then they proceeded to win the next 2 games. And here it's 3-0 going into game 4. Obviously, you guys know G2 win this game, but this is a very high scoring game, I will say that. So let's see what happens. Faze kind of break down here. They concede, I'll say they concede 5 goals, which means that they couldn't have had as strong of a midfield or as strong of a defense. What does that mean? Does it mean that Mist is pushing up further than typically he should? Does it mean Faze are getting overconfident because they're 3-0 up? Who knows? Let's see what's happening. Sypical so far just playing a solid game, and like I mentioned last game, I said that Sypical was usually the third man on the team last year. So if we actually, first off, before I go into that point, this goal happens because I think, in my opinion, both of First Killer and Sypical being a bit too over-aggressive here, perhaps a bit too overconfident. 3-0 up in the series. I think First Killer thinks that Sypical's getting this 50 here. He doesn't quite get a touch, and Mist has pushed up as well. Let's actually see what happens from Mist's perspective. Maybe Mist perhaps gets a bit greedy as well. So it looks like all 3 players just getting a bit greedy, going a bit too wide, and not really covering the middle of the pitch. If you look at Sypical, his car was covering the right side. First Killer's covering the left, and Mist is also covering the right. So Not too much coverage in the midfield here, and JNAP spots that. It's just going to be an open there for Chicago, and he doesn't miss those. So, like I was saying before, we got rudely interrupted by a goal. Unbelievable. Typical on last season's Faze roster was the third man, or he tended to be the third man. And I think with Mist, he's gained a new confidence. He had a phenomenal tournament. We played Faze in the finals, and for me, first killer was amazing, but Typical, for me, played the best in that finals. I mean, first killer also just completely ran through us, but Typical was great. First killer was definitely the player of the tournament overall. But Typical was absolutely no slouch, and we'll see that here. He seems to go for a lot of air duels, is what I'll say, and he's very, very good at that. I think we're seeing a bit of RCS X Typical on Space Station coming out in this tournament with Faze. It seems like he's allowed to push up a bit more. He seems like he's a bit more confident on the ball. He's not trying to just facilitate around his teammates, or facilitate for his teammates rather. And I like that. I think Typical is an incredibly talented player. I think he's one of the most talented players we've ever seen. I'm pretty sure he was, he was a player who made RCS on very low hours, as in he didn't even have that many hours like put into the game overall to even make RCS. What a save from Mist there, by the way, on that counter attack. But like I was saying with Typical, seems like he's playing a more aggressive role on this team, but he's definitely still playing defense, kind of that middle man role. And this goal, why does this goal happen? So obviously Mist makes a great save there. First killer touches to the side. Mist perhaps a little bit too fast to push into the corner because he just gets beat, and he gets beat very easily. Atomic doesn't actually have to beat him. He literally just has to touch the ball up the wall, which he was going to do anyway. So perhaps a little bit over aggressive there from Mist. And first killer I think does his job. He does get beat. Perhaps he could stay on the backboard and wait for Atomic to come to him instead of jumping off the backboard. Sometimes jumping off the backboard isn't too great. But first killer, I mean, he probably has a plan to score that somehow from that angle, so I won't doubt him. And Typical just gets beat. Typical in an awkward position there, in my opinion, not too much of his fault. So I think a bit of Mist being over aggressive after making a really good save, and first killer perhaps rushing into the challenge off the backboard a little bit too soon. This kickoff doesn't go in favour at all, but Mist again, great save. Probably the best goal line defender of the game, in a similar league to Rawas out of Middle East for KRM. Those two players are very, very good goal line defenders. Rawas, Monkey Moon, and Mist are probably right up there. That's unfortunate. G2 get an extra touch on the ball. It doesn't seem that actually, this is a weird thing I'll point out. Let me see why this goal. It seems that all of Faze's goals they're conceding this game are actually just very, very just hard push-ups from from all their players. I mean, where is Mist? He's pushing up to the midfield. Yeah, it just seems like they're all pushing up very, very far. Now that could be, like I said, due to being confident, overconfident, because they're 3-0 up in the series. They've got it. They know they've got it. Perhaps it's just a bit of, could be a lack of focus. Again, 3-0 up in the series, you can lose focus. And it just seems they're getting a bit over aggressive. One thing I would point out is that Typical, whenever he's getting bumped, he doesn't actually, which I didn't notice before, he doesn't actually seem to jump ever, or at least in this game. This is the 4th time, I'm pretty sure, or the 4th time I noticed. Well, sorry, this is the 3rd time, that bump there, and then this one is the 4th time. He seems to try and fake his opponent out, stay on the ground to hope they flip over him or jump over him. So that's a decent point. I mean, doesn't really add too much, but perhaps I'll try and remember that one when I play him next. Who knows? Good bump there from Typical. Not sure how much he actually knew about that bump, considering he had ball cam on, but it works. That's a great play actually. First killer passes over to Typical. Typical doesn't try to shoot that. If he shoots that, he probably gets blocked. And if he just touches it like he does, he can maintain his position. Now, that's very important. You guys want to learn when to do this. You want to maintain your position a lot of the time. You don't always have to jump. You don't always have to flip into the ball. Sometimes you can just drive into it And that allows you to maintain your position, like I said, and it allows you to recover, or not even have to recover, just get into a better position for the next shot or the next play. And that's what Sifkul does here. You know, Chicago gets a great touch, and then Sifkul just goes for a bump because he realizes if he bumps that player, that is the only person defending their goal. Miss gets an open net. So really, really good play from Sifkul there, especially. Good pass from First Killer and an easy finish from Miss there. Again, it's looking, I mean, it's looking like, does he backflip here? Yeah, it looks like he was backflipping. It does look like Sifkul's getting more confident now. I don't want to, you know, make assumptions or just, you know, overanalyze things. But he kind of takes this ball off First Killer. First Killer probably called himself onto the ball. He wanted this ball. Sifkul goes, nah, like, I see the space. So it's good to see him more, you know, more confident. And they get a pinch, weird pinch over them. But yeah, Sifkul definitely looks more confident. Looks more like himself. You know, Faze, really, really good save. That's a difficult position. Faze last year, they looked great. You know, they were a very, very consistent team. Possibly the most consistent team in terms of results. But Sifkul never really looked like... I don't know, he just didn't look like himself to me. And it's nice to see him looking more like we saw him in RCSX, I will say that. Because there was a time, I think it was in fall of RCSX, when a lot of people were calling Sifkul the best player in the world. And I don't know if you guys remember that, but for me he was looking incredible. And perhaps we're starting to see that again. Yeah, just a bit of over-aggressiveness, like I said, in this game from Faze. 4-1 down. Very difficult to get this comeback. I mean, the scoreline ends 5-3, which means it was a bit of a false scoreline, because they were, which I didn't realise. I haven't seen this game until now. They were 5-1 up. G2 were, and I call it a false scoreline because perhaps these last two goals don't really mean too much. Because yeah, they score with 35 seconds left. Every team is gonna say, oh yeah, like still winnable, and I'm sure I'm gonna get slated by fans going, oh Jack, you give up. This is a clear depiction of you giving up too soon. But you're not winning this game. You're not winning this game, especially against the best, the best team out of NA, second best team in the world going into this tournament in G2. You're not winning this game. 35 seconds left, 3 goals. It's too much to do. So a little bit of a false scoreline. The game wasn't as close as the scoreline suggests here. This was a bit of a whitewash, and I don't think FaZe particularly played bad. They were just very over aggressive in crucial situations, which led to 5 goals pretty much. And that is that game, really. Nothing more to it. It's typical, you know, not too much, but I don't think any of FaZe there did too much. I think they just didn't play their style. So we'll go on to the third game. All right, third game of the video. This is the game 5 of the series. FaZe are currently 3-1 up. This is the game after the one you've just seen. They just got 5-3'd in quite a strong fashion, so it could be difficult for them to get back. But obviously we know they win the series 4-1, so obviously they do. And we're on First Killer's POV. We're looking at the main man. Don't think it's rude to say that. First Killer is obviously, you know, the main star of this team. He's going to be the main star of any team he gets on, and for good reason. He's for me, Monkey Moon is the best player in the world. I mean, actually, I guess not. Monkey Moon, BDS just lost. They just went out in top 8 today, and First Killer opens up the scoreline with a double tap here. And this is a great play. I mean, he recognises that the last man. This is very important, and I'm sure perhaps he didn't recognise it to this extent because it's very difficult to notice this in the moment, as opposed to a replay. But he does this quick check. He sees that Chicago is close. Now I don't know if he sees the last man. But this hit is so good because it's over the first man, right, in Chicago, and it's close enough to First Killer to where the last man can't challenge. Over 1, JNaps can't challenge, no one can challenge, which means this is now a free ball, and the backboard is free because Atomic just went for the ball in the corner. He saw JNaps on the midfield literally 2 seconds ago. There's no way someone's possibly backboard right now. Double tap, and he doesn't miss those. You know, he might get saved, but he doesn't miss those. He always puts it on target at a good pace. So amazing shot there. Like I was saying, I was going to say for me, Monkey Moon is still the best player in the world, but we just saw the quarterfinals of E Regional 1 as of today. It's Saturday, and BDS just lost in top 8. So off recency bias, I'm putting First as #1 right now just because of how well he played this tournament. Completely off recency bias, but he played very, very well, and no one was really close to him. And you'll see in this game that's a standout play. That was the first standout play of the game, that double tap, and he has, I think, another one in this game if I'm not wrong. And it's pretty stupid with how consistent he gets at this stuff. That's another goal. That's just a miss from Atomic. Off a good hit. It is a good hit from, I think this is Mist here, yeah. Good hit from Mist. Very fast to beat JNaps, and he puts it high, which is an awkward ball for Atomic to read, but he definitely should have had a better look on that one. So First Clear gets an open net. But as I was saying, keep getting interrupted by terrible goals. I'm joking, don't blame me. As I was saying, First Cooler to me, he's looking like the best player in the world, and he is just very, very scary. I think me and Nolly talked about it, and we agree that he's possibly the player that's closest to being the best in terms of individual skill that we've seen in Rocket League. Like, he's the closest to a perfect player in terms of individual skill that we've seen. And he just makes things work when you don't even think it should work. He gets full power on every touch. It's really weird. He keeps his momentum so well, and he's always at a high boost amount, always going fast, and he manages to get some of the cleanest touches and pull off like stupid mechanics all the time. And he's not that selfish of a player. I think people really do think he's an incredibly selfish player, but he does a lot of like solo play into passes. People don't recognize this, which I don't know how, but he does an incredible amount of solo play into passes, and he's not that selfish of a player at all. Perhaps he's selfish in terms of, you know, calling onto balls or going for boosts, but I think he should be. He's clearly the best player in the lobby, in most lobbies he's entering, you know. Fake challenge out first, just gone ceiling to block the high hit, and he actually gets down and goes onto the ground. This is actually a really good recovery as well. That's a fast flip. Like, he recognises that to keep his momentum, he has to do that. One flip, he goes for a double flip set in the semis, and he actually puts it on target. Good save out of, I think it was JNaps there. He's just looking like the faster player. He's looking like the better player in every situation. And this one, I mean, it speaks for itself. We'll give it another watch. I mean, like I said, he's looking like the better player. He's looking like the faster player and the smarter player in every situation. And he puts it up into an awkward position. Of course, this shot was not his intention when he was going for this ball, but he adapts very well, and that's what First Coast is so good at doing as well. He adapts incredibly well. You know, he puts it high, awkward for Chicago, recognises where he's going to touch it, which is the hardest part, because I know, I'm sorry I keep going back to this, but I know if I was going for this play, I get this hit, I would go low. I wouldn't expect Chicago to hit this high, which I mean, I would expect it to be lower. So I'm very surprised he got, you know, this read at the literally perfect like height. Like that was nuts. He just laughs. He just smiles and laughs. He doesn't really react too much. It's just another goal. He's got a hat trick in this game already. We're only, you know, just over 2.5 minutes left. He's dropping 586, close to 600 points in the game, and that's it. 663, taking 2 players out of the game. He goes for the solo play. He's feeling it. He probably should have passed this, but I don't mind the solo play. I think I don't know actually. I think the solo play is fine because Chicago is trying to cover the pass as well. But I mean, First Killer, when you're playing like he is right now and you're 3-0 up, 3-1 in the lead in this, you know, in the series, I'm sure he wants the 4th goal. You know, he wants as many goals as he can. He's feeling it. Probably just booms this. Yeah, he's very, very good at recognizing when he should boom balls, and that sounds so silly because you're going like, oh, Jack, you know, everyone should be their pro player, but it's a harder skill that not a lot of players understand. Even especially when you're 100 boost, a lot of players, even pros, have a tendency to try and just use all their boosts instantly and get all the, you know, the most out of the play that they could possibly get. And that's not the greatest mentality to have. It's not a good mentality to have at all. Sometimes you're on 100 boost, you want to use 10 and boom it. That's the best play in that situation sometimes. And First Killer seems to understand that a lot. similar to players like Jans for me understands that, and all of G2 to be honest understand that very well. Not a good defensive play here from First Killer actually. He Typical perhaps a little bit. No, Typical was fine. Typical was fine, sorry. Typical was completely fine. Missed. Decent challenge, not the best. First Killer does start to push up though. He starts to push up, which was very over aggressive, especially 3-0 up, 3-1 in the series. Everyone knows you don't need goals, you just need to cover the passing options, you just need to cover the ball. And perhaps that's what he was trying to do. He was just trying to keep them in the half, but he just gets a bit over aggressive. And of course he doesn't have to pre-jump the shot, but he is respecting Chicago. And perhaps because he respects Chicago, I mean, let's watch from Chicago's angle. Yeah, he sees First Killer jumping, so he shoots low actually. And that's just a great shot from Chicago. It's good recognition on the goal line there to see that he's going high and to actually place that low. Better shot than probably people gave him credit for that one. It was a decent play. 3-1 though. Still looking like Faze's game all over. First Killer just cutting off the passing options, making him go around him. And people go, oh, First Killer got beat there. Oh my god, what are you doing? He goes too low on the backboard. That's all it was. He's just not giving himself the best angle to approach that ball off the backboard. But like I was saying, people go, oh, you know, First Killer, you know, getting beat there, not a good play. But all he did in that situation about 20 seconds ago was cover the passing lane. He covered the passing lane, and then he covered the person on the passing lane, which meant that he had to shoot around him. And that just puts it in an easy position for his goalkeeper to get because it's not even on target. So he did his job perfectly. You don't have to hit the ball to do a good job in this game. Especially when you're just covering options. First Killer probably going to put this forward to relieve some pressure, to get some time off the clock, give his team some time to grab boost and you know, restructure, reposition on defense to secure this game. And that 50, well, that 50 secures it, or that play from miss just to force the hit out. Secures the series for Faze. Typical gets another goal just to, you know, for the cherry on top. And that's a 4-1 win for Faze. Not particularly close, I don't think. It was Faze lost their fourth game. Well, they lost their first game and only game of the series, and lost the fourth game of the series just by their own mistakes. I think this series wasn't particularly close, and Faze showed pretty much, you know, dominance from start to finish. And that was a great series. I mean, out of First Killer especially, I think all of them did their parts. First Killer dropping 8-3-5, whilst everyone on the lobby is at 200 points maximum. Decent showing. Pretty good. Could be better though. He could have dropped 900, so you know, perhaps he can improve a little bit, but only kidding. He's playing like the best player in the world. And hopefully this analysis showed why Faze won the first regional. They were great. Congrats to them. But hopefully we'll have them in the second regional, which is in, I think, about 5 days or 6 days we'll be playing again. So make sure you guys get ready to watch us, go support us. And if you enjoyed this video, support me in the comments. Like always, leave a like. I'll see you guys next time.